had my bird out. I was like, we had not taken a squirrel yet with this bird. I was hunting alone, and this one I know a lot of my buddies know about. But we were chasing a squirrel, and the bird's, really engaged in the hunt, and I'm psyched up, and I just know he's going to catch this squirrel, and the squirrel runs over and jumps into a cedar tree, and so I'm over there, and I run around, I grab the cedar tree, and I'm shaking and screaming, game calling, and, waiting on the bird to come in. It's just a perfect setup. And this little shard of the, cedar tree fell and went right down my throat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Falconry Told Podcast at falconrytold.com. We want to thank the Falconry Fund for the previous couple months of collaboration, and if you want to keep up with the happenings at the Falconry Fund, please feel free to continue to visit them at www.falconryfund.org. But for the foreseeable future, the Falconry Told Podcast will be back at falconrytold.com. And this week's episode brought me down to Waverly, Tennessee to hang out with Jeff Fincher and talk about some of his different stories in abatement and red-tail hawking, including the one that you just heard a little sample of at the beginning. So this episode was really cool. Really enjoyed talking to Jeff about some of his different experiences. So let's just jump right in this week with Jeff Fincher. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, I am here this week with Mr. Jeff Fincher, and first of all, Jeff, I have to ask: is it like a state or a county law that everyone has to drive about 10 miles per hour under the speed limit here locally? Because I was in a 55 coming down here, and everyone was going 45 to 50, and I was white knuckling it the whole way. So I'm just curious about that. Like, is that a local thing, or is that?
It's pretty normal. I think you ran into the people who were just trying not to get to work. So they're taking their time, man. Everybody, no one's in a hurry around here.
Okay.
So yeah.
So this is more of like the South and the Eastern Coast kind of vibe, where everybody is more chill and laid back, and everybody in the North is always in a hurry kind of thing. So it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, definitely. Most people around here are retired, actually. So.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense then. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was saying some naughty words and stuff on the way down here and everything. But man, this is a cool place. So for everyone listening, we're actually sitting in an airport hangar right now, and we're doing this podcast, and it's a pretty cool vibe, actually. They do a lot of skydiving and stuff out of this airport, correct?
That's right. Yeah. That's the number one thing we do here. So
nice. So, and you have and you do abatement and everything, and you're are all your birds and equipment and stuff located here, or?
No, this is kind of like my second life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all my birds are at the house.
Okay.
But I spend a lot of time out here. So skydiving is kind of like my life away from falconry.
Nice. Well, yeah, we were kind of talking before we officially started rolling here about that, and we were kind of talking about the whole heights thing and everything, and skydiving is definitely something that I wouldn't mind doing at some point, but I still have to work up the fortitude, I think, to do that, because I was explaining to you that I was in an accident when I was a kid, and heights just haven't really totally meshed with me since then. But I can deal with them some. I can fly no problem and everything like that or whatever. But the whole concept of the classic jumping out of a perfectly good airplane thing, I'm still not sure I'm quite there yet.
Oh,
but,
yeah, man. I mean, I hear it every day. Yeah,
I'm sure
everybody comes out here to get over their fear of heights.
Oh,
but I think it's something everybody should do once at least.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth giving it a shot, man.
Well, I mean,
I'm still here, so I mean, you can go with me. And,
what can go wrong?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, man.
Yeah,
I'm invincible, man. You're good.
Fair enough. So what's your main clientele as far as abatement around here, and how did you get into it?
Oh man, so there was I had some buddies when I first moved here, and they had gotten a job with the city of Nashville. So they asked me to help them out. That just turned into us starting a legitimate business. And really it was all started off of, people coming to us looking for solutions for their bird problems. What happens is they go they call the state wildlife people or whatever, and then the wildlife people kind of try to point them toward a falconer or something. That's kind of how it got started. So yeah, it was City of Nashville and it's starling roost.
Oh, okay.
Stuff is what we started with.
Yeah, so mainly starlings and kind of graduating into other birds like pigeons and stuff like that.
Exactly. So word of mouth, really. We did the starling job. We're still doing the starling job. That's like going on like 6-7 years now.
Huh. Okay.
And then the Nashville airport found out that we were working with the city on that, and so they contacted us, and yeah, it's just kind of grown from there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, I've got other friends that do abatement stuff. I never really talked to them just too much in depth about, what it takes to even get started on that and everything. I've always kind of found that interesting. And I've also, all the friends that I have that do that sort of line of work and everything are also the ones that I know for a fact would absolutely be completely and totally miserable just doing a normal 9 to 5 and everything.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm sure you're probably fit into that category also, right?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I grew up doing farm work, and I just worked on the farm, and I started skydiving and doing skydiving instruction, and I got a degree in environmental science, and I tried to work in that environment for it's about 3 months, and I was just miserable, man. I can't do a 9 to 5 job, and I just went back to the farm. And
really?
then, and I was doing falconry. I started falconry in 99. And then when I moved to Tennessee in 2010, shortly after that's when I started doing abatement. And I just kind of fell into that,
Sure.
The buddies that were already doing it, the jobs just kind of fell in our laps. I'm not a businessman by any means, man. I have a really good business partner. He's good at that part, and I'm good at getting the work done.
There's something that I've discovered over the years also, and so like as we were talking about earlier, I'm into music a lot and everything too, and like every band has to have at least one guy in the band that kind of is that business guy,
right?
Because inevitably, out of the other 3 or 4 members of each band, any one of them at any given time could completely screw up anything as far as let's we'll play like these 10 gigs in a row for free. Oh, by the way, in between each one is like a 7-hour drive, but we're just I agree to do it for us because we're that kind of thing. So I mean, it's cool that you have another dude or two in your scope, that can kind of mitigate that for you. Because,
absolutely, man. Our weaknesses and strengths kind of they kind of counteract each other, So it's good. Where he's strong, I'm not, and vice versa.
Well, it's good that you guys identified that at least semi-early.
Right.
Because if not, and what's worse are the guys that think they're business-minded and really want to have that, input and say and everything, but then, you look at their checkbook and
I know my place in this business arrangement for sure, man. And if you've seen my office over there, which you haven't, you would understand why I'm bad at paperwork and business. So
it takes people of all kinds for sure. So, what exactly does that entail working out with the say the first starling gig that you got? How do you go about like pricing those jobs and everything?
Really, man, I mean, we talked to a lot of other people in the abatement business, and kind of followed their pricing structure. There's been a ton to figure out. I mean, and every job's different, and we've taken jobs, man. It's like the airport job. That was a unique job. There was sparrows inside the airport. So it's not really an abatement job as much as it is like an elimination, and getting rid of the
trapping
birds.
And
Exactly. Yeah. And they tried everything. They tried traps and everything. And I kind of thought, well, they're just bad at it. So I go in, I put sparrow traps and stuff, and man, those birds would not go in those traps. And really, it just came down to flying a falcon inside the terminal of the airport.
Mm-hmm. And so whenever you first, told them, obviously they had to have at least some degree of an idea of the fact that you might be bringing a bird in because of what you do, right?
They're the ones absolutely. They expected it.
Right, yeah, they're the ones that approached you. So there wasn't anybody that kind of came in and was freaking out that you you brought. What kind of falcon were you using for that?
Well, at the time we didn't have one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was the thing, They came to us, and we'd just been doing starling roost work, and that was really the only job we had. And so we had Harris hawks,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're using down there. And we go in, we look at their job, we're like, yeah, we can do it.
Yeah. Well,
And,
you get a little Tiercel Harris in there. I mean, heck,
Well, we just went back out to the trucks after a meeting with them, and we're like, we got to buy falcons.
Yeah.
And get them trained. Like, we got to get it done, So that's what we did, we used aplamados.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we got a couple of aplamados and got them trained real quick and went to work in there. And it was tricky, man, because those sparrows in these buildings, it's an airport terminal, and those sparrows were, the generations that were born in the airport.
Right.
They weren't just getting in.
Right. Yeah. They were.
Yeah. I mean, that was like their natural habitat.
You're
man.
right. They were colonies that were there and established for several years, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Exactly. So, I mean, these sparrows, they did not fly in the windows. They didn't make mistakes. They knew where everything was. They were set in their feeding patterns and all that. You just couldn't change it.
Yeah, I'm sure there were plenty of cavities and stuff for them to get back into.
Oh,
and
it's
everything
insane,
else.
man. Yeah.
Jeez.
It's just, so this turns into a rat hunt,
Oh, I'm sure. So, so you get that gig and you get these aplamados. How different is the mindset for the training for that in traditional falconry versus abatement?
Right. Yeah. Well, everything we did was with these birds revolved around the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So most of our training took place in the airport.
Yeah.
We would go in there, when it was not busy or late at night, or find an empty gate somewhere, and you do your creance flights and stuff in the airport. I did baggies in the airport, man. Like just whatever I needed to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm sure there was. Being that there was all those, all that natural quarry that was already in there in the first place, it would have been a great place to enter a bird on those type of birds and stuff too. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you're showing them what you want them to do right from the get go. Yeah. So, a lot like falconry,
Yeah.
Train them for what you want to hunt.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge with dealing with the people in the airport.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because when we first started, the idea was they wanted us to come in at like midnight after like all the flights had stopped and, do it in the middle of the night. But the sparrows aren't moving.
Right.
They're all tucked in somewhere. And so we ended up having to do it during the day and dealing with the travelers and all that, traffic. So
right,
we had some interesting run-ins.
Yeah, I'm sure. You've got all those people just kind of the passerbys walking from flight to flight, and it's just like, what are they doing to those sparrows? What are they doing with those sparrows? And I'm sure it was. What was your response to that? Just.
Oh man, well, what's interesting too is like, lots of times there's like, there's a falcon flying right over these people's heads, and they're looking at their phone, and they don't even know, you don't even know what's happening, So sometimes it's kind of funny like that. But, lots of times we turn one loose after a sparrow, and of course they take off down the concourse, man, and all you're seeing is there goes your falcon down the concourse of the airport somewhere, and it rounds the corner, and it's gone, and, and you're like, oh, God. So, like, we found out the best tracking system was just watching the people.
Oh, yeah, just the reactions.
Yeah, so like as I like run down the concourse, I'm looking where everybody's looking. And I can kind of track my falcon that way. But
so it's kind of like the equivalent of say if you're not using GPS or any form of telemetry on your bird, and you're just looking around waiting for all the robins and all the other birds to get mad and start squawking at something. You're like, oh, my bird must be over there somewhere.
Exactly,
that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it caught a sparrow up in the security checkpoint one time, and we got called on the intercom in the airport. The bird guys come get their bird out of security.
The bird guys.
I even had a lady pick up my bird one time. I rounded the corner and went her into the gate. I saw everybody kind of gathered around, and lady was holding it on her fist, and her husband was a falconer.
Huh.
Yeah, it was just random.
Wow.
She's like, she recognized it as a falconry bird, saw the jesses and stuff on it.
Oh, that's so funny.
She just picked it up and had it on her fist.
That is awesome. So aside from the airport job, then what other kind of jobs do you work regularly?
We do a lot of industrial stuff. I've done a lot of like Nissan Motors, power plants, stuff like that, big box stores. We've moved a lot into like air rifle work also.
Oh, okay.
So we do a lot of that as well, which I actually prefer. You know, you don't have to feed an air rifle.
Oh, right.
It's pretty it's pretty cut and dry, man.
Well, and you don't have to worry about the wrong person coming up and trying to pick your bird up too.
Yeah, exactly. And like your bird flying into something weird. You know, I mean, we've worked in places where, you know, have these big overhead cranes and it's, you know, all this electrical and, you know, or hot molten steel being poured, you know.
Well, and for that matter, you know, like the airport gig, you know, having those big open windows that, you know, littler birds like sharpshins and stuff just love to fly into. And
yeah, I mean, when we were doing that job, you had to be very picky about where you turned your bird loose. So, you know, we would kind of like stalk through the airport. You had to kind of pick your slips just to try to mitigate window, you know, strikes and whatnot. And, you know, we had a couple of glancing blows. We haven't, you know, we've done really well. We haven't lost a bird to anything like that. But, you know, there's been some times where it scares you a little bit. But the sparrows in there, they actually, you know, they got to where they would recognize us.
Well, yeah, I mean, starlings do that too.
Yeah. So, you know, they look like they're going to be easy because they're just like walking around on the floor all around people's feet.
You're like, uh-oh.
But as soon as they see you from all the way down the concourse, they're gone. So we actually got to where it was like, we'd keep it in the giant hood. And then, like, I'd see the bird and I'd kind of, like, I'd have to get down on the floor and, like, crawl behind some garbage cans. And everybody in the airport's looking at you like you're crazy, you know? And I'm, like, hiding behind the garbage cans. And I pull the falcon out of the box, you know, and kind of pop up over the garbage cans and launch them at them. You know? So, yeah, I don't know. There's probably some crazy YouTube videos of me out there somewhere.
That's so funny, man. Oh. Well, that's cool. Well, I mean, so you've done the aplomatos for abatement and stuff. And a buddy of mine was telling me that you've also here lately been flying like a Eurokestrel and stuff too, right?
Yeah. I got the Eurokest with the idea of doing the same thing, like sparrows inside, and just haven't really used it for that. I was trying to get it going and just been kind of flying it just like I did my American kestrels, just on starlings. Mm-hmm. And man, it's just like a slow developing bird, man. I've just been banging my head against the wall on that one. But it's coming around, man. He gets it. He's starting to get it. So
I'm assuming you just said you've done kestrels, right?
Yes.
And everything. So I mean the primary. I mean aside from the size difference, obviously, with the Eurokestrels being so much bigger. I mean, I'm assuming that you bought one and trained it up as an imprint, correct? An IS or was it chamber raised?
No, it's chamber raised. Chamber raised Eurokest.
Cool.
Yeah, my American kestrels were all imprints.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you know, captive bred Eurokestrel and training and stuff. I mean, like so when you say that it's been slow going and you want to just, you know, kind of beat your head against the wall or whatever with all that. What do you mean? Like, what's been the difference? I mean, that you've noticed just
gaminess, man.
Yeah, just not as much to like turn, just not as quick to turn on.
Yeah,
like towards
in a lot more like kind of just day to day. Like, I mean, some days it seems like he's gamey, and then the next day, you know, the same weight and same conditions, it just, you know, doesn't seem interesting. Yeah. So I'd say it's just less consistent than American kestrel so far.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, and the birds too. And I mean, the first year, I couldn't get it to do anything. You know, I couldn't get it to show any interest. And finally now it's 2 years old and it's taking some wild game now.
Gotcha. So. That's weird, man. Like, you know, I mean, and you know, you're not actually the first person that I've heard that from, because like there's been a couple guys that you know have mentioned that also, that those, along with certain other types of species and even some of the hybrids and stuff, it can take sometimes up to a season or two for them to really. I mean, it's like a waiting game, you know, like just a test in patience, you know, trying to get these birds to care about, you know, taking and pursuing game and everything. So, but yeah, so you mainly bought it with abatement in mind and everything. I
did, yeah.
So I mean, but to get it kind of more entered on different types of, you know, like game and everything. I mean, I'm assuming that you were flying it in outside of abatement and stuff.
Yes,
too, right?
yeah. I haven't used a bird in abatement at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. Well, obviously, I guess you can't because it's not wanting to go after stuff.
Right.
It wouldn't be very effective,
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can walk around and be like, yeah, here's a falcon, but it's not going to do anything.
Yeah. It's like, well, my aplamatos, they've done their job today. I guess I can do some PR and pull out this Eurokestrel.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. No, it's funny of the Eurocast. He's just this was kind of like his year. Like I was determined. It's like if it's not going to happen this year, he's going to the Ren Fair with somebody or something. Go do what all the rest of them do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, he's coming around. I think he's going to be all right.
That's good. So I mean, is it the same kind of flight style though? What's the difference in in hunting or flight style compared to an American kestrel?
Yeah, well, I noticed my American kestrels like pretty much went to the ground immediately. Like flew right above the ground. He knew how to they come out and go right along the ground and ambush those starlings. And this bird wanted to go up.
Okay,
he wanted to go up and wing over down on them.
Huh. Okay.
And it wasn't working. Like as soon as he'd fly up, the starlings would see him and then they'd take off.
Right.
And I mean, he had a couple of kind of close shots in the air, but now he's starting to figure it out. He's staying low. He still doesn't get down on the ground like an American kestrel does, but he'll do kind of more like a direct flight.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that's the only real difference I've seen in the flight style.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've not ever gotten to see one yet. You see some of these. It's funny because you see some of these hybrids and some of these other non-native species and everything, and you think to yourself, man, that looks like a bird that'd be cool to have. And then all of a sudden you talk to a few people and they're like, don't even go near it. Right. Just don't even think about it. Just stay away. Just go ahead and just stick with the American version,
right?
Or the whatever, and you're just like, oh, okay. I guess I'll listen to you, since you've done it and I haven't, and whatever. But there's plenty of those guys out there that are like, well, that's cool. I'm gonna go buy one anyway.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, they're voicing the same. I don't know. I guess some guys might call it regret, or if nothing else, just the same complaints.
Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, there's I don't know. There's a reason that certain birds are popular and others aren't.
Right.
And that's it. But you have to be careful listening to people too, man. It's like with the internet, you just never know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
You get such a wide range of just
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely boy, yeah, that can turn into a dumpster fire pretty quick for sure. But I mean, it's the same thing with. I mean, you got these. In the end, you like to think that a lot of that discussion in the end becomes kind of a fun, good-spirited, just ribbing between friends or whatever. Like me and my local guys, I'm around a bunch of hardcore accipiter, especially Goshawk guys and everything, and I flew Harris's for a couple seasons and had pretty good success with them and everything, but the constant ragging, and everything. But then, your bird, catches jacks and catches this and catches that or whatever, same stuff or whatever, and you can be like, well, oh, by the way, my bird comes back without just this huge amount of fuss and hassle and everything.
Right.
Oh yeah, I can recall mine to the glove, and you gotta do, sit under a tree for an hour trying to get yours back down because it's crazy and whatever, and just not in the right mood that day.
That's been like one of the biggest things that's turned me off of Goshawks. It's like every time I go with somebody, it's like they can't get their bird back. It doesn't recall. I'm like, oh man.
Well, in a way, I've kind of been somewhat, I don't know, I guess I've been kind of somewhat spoiled in that the first birds that I really saw were Goshawks, obviously. It's like the guys that when I first started getting into this and observing with local guys, a lot of them flew Goshawks, and they're pretty good. They were pretty good Ostringers in that regard. They didn't really have too much of an issue or whatever, but every so often you get that occasional day where their bird might have just been off just a little bit, and wait, because everybody that gets into the sport, as you know, you get out in the field and, oh, by the way, guys, just throwing this out there, bird might be a little fat today.
Right.
So, whenever, in other words, it's like when my bird is terrible and you have to sit there and watching me deal with that, just so it's just throwing those disclaimers out there. Everybody does it.
Everybody does it, man.
Yeah.
You got to.
But, it's always funny, too, because there's been so many days where, there'll be other local guys, too, occasionally that will seek advice from the more experienced Goshawk guys locally and everything. And it's always funny, like they'll be going and trying to get their bird back and everything, and said experienced guy will just look at me and just smile, and I'm just like shaking my head, and he's just like, "Yeah, you really want one though," and I'm like, "No, I'm good." Hey everyone, thanks again so much for joining us back at falconrytold.com for another week's episode, and we just want to thank you all again so much for all the continued positive feedback and support that you've been giving us, especially the past few months here. Our analytics and statistics just keep growing, and our listener base just keeps growing, and we are so very thankful for the continued spreading of the word about the program, and we've really been enjoying producing all this content for you all, and thank you again. Even though you guys probably just get tired of hearing it, we don't get tired of thanking you for it. So thanks again so much, and if you want to continue showing your love in any way, shape, or form, whether it be feedback, constructive criticism, donations, anything, just hit us up here at falconrytold.com, and thank you again so much. Well, I hope you guys have been enjoying a lot of the stories so far that Jeff has shared with us. If you have and you want to hear more, well, the good news is there's plenty more where that came from. So let's jump back into the second half of the episode and hear some more insight and some more of Jeff's shenanigans. But yeah, so all that being said, it's there's nothing wrong with flying a Harris or a perfectly good red tail or whatever, which I know that you also have been kind of known for as well. Being kind of like a big red tail on squirrel guy and everything. And is that still kind of like your main dig or your main?
Absolutely, man.
I mean, that's still what
I'm not getting away from that.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like it's just such its own little niche of falconry. Mm-hmm. I mean, squirrel hawking's so different from everything else. And I would love to hawk squirrels of another bird. I mean, I'd love to fly a goshawk, but honestly, I mean, I don't really love taking care of birds. And I mean, like a red tail's just a pretty easy keeper.
Yeah. Once you get a man down and trained and everything,
and I'm busy and whatever, and
mm-hmm.
I like to hunt. I don't really like to train birds.
Yeah.
I like to hunt. I'm more of a hunter than I am a falconer, for sure.
Well, and if you get a good red tail, you can have one for a good 4 or 5. Interview them for or keep them through the molt from season to season for a good 4 or 5 seasons before mm-hmm. they kind of start wanting to really focus on that whole breeding thing,
right.
and they become a little bit of a headache to deal with because they're always looking for a mate when you're out hunting and stuff. But there's a lot of guys that are like that, and I mean I don't think there's anything wrong with that,
man. It's good fun and it's good falconry, man. You have a lot of fun hawking squirrels, and I used to just keep them for 2 seasons, mm-hmm. Max,
right.
I mean, I did enjoy getting new birds. I really like flying a juvenile bird, But now that I hunt with a dog, sometimes, I get a bird that's working really well with my dog, and I'm tempted to keep it for another season or 2.
Right, just because it's already shown those qualities. You don't have to worry about, that lottery that
exactly.
you're rolling the dice on what the next bird's going to be like.
Exactly
it's going
right.
to absolutely hate it or,
mm-hmm.
Sit there and want to tag it constantly through a hunt or whatever. And,
yep. And I can get hunting early in the season. I've already got a bird that's ready to go, and that lets me get my dog out early too. Mm. So just more time in the woods with the dog and the bird.
No, I'm sure. And so how do you have a red tail currently right now, or did you?
I do, yeah.
Did you release
No, I currently have one. I pretty much always have one.
Right. And how many seasons have you had this one? Was it a passage last year, or was it?
I've got 2 right now.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, one was a passage last year, and one is will be its third season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Are you one of those guys that kind of likes to keep two, and just in case something happens to one?
I always have two. Yeah, I always have two, man. And I've got an apprentice. So he's not my apprentice anymore, but he was my apprentice. He lives right down the road from me, and he keeps one too. So we're kind of like we make jokes about it. We have 3 birds between the two of us. It's kind of like my 2 dads, you know. It's like we just, if I'm not home or whatever, he'll hunt my birds. Mm-hmm. You know, we hunt together just about every day. He's kind of like a self-employed guy too. It does jack of all trades, and
right.
His schedule is pretty open during the season. We hunt pretty much every single day of the season. So,
well, I mean, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's you know, there's been a couple seasons I've had. I mean, I haven't been doing this super long myself. I mean, I'm in year like 4 or 5 now, technically, kind of including my pre-apprentice year or whatever also. But so I think this is actually my 4th year of actual, you know, being licensed and everything, right. Flying birds. And I know, like, that first year, I was about the same way. I mean, my first red tail, you know, male red tail that I had, I was hunting him almost every day or every other day at least. And then there's been a couple off years where I've had that, you know, whether it be bad luck or whatever, it's just like, you know, I mean, sometimes it's just fate or whatever the falconry gods decide to,
right.
to bestow upon you. Sometimes you just don't really have a choice in the matter. So I mean, it's cool that you've got somebody that's like right next to you that can do that. I was fortunate that my sponsor was like, he lives about 10-15 minutes away from me also. So but whenever I started flying birds that he didn't really have much experience with, and I, you know, if I went out of town or something, it kind of started becoming a little bit more of a challenge to find guys
right.
that were like, that would watch my birds while I was gone,
right.
you know, but so, you know, I mean, did you do cottontails or anything else really much with your red tails initially, or did you just primarily always do squirrels?
Man, pretty much primarily squirrels. I mean, speaking of like, you know, sponsors that are like, you know, right down the road from you. When I started, I had a paper sponsor.
Oh, okay.
I met my sponsor, I think 3 times.
Ugh.
It never went on it, never hunted. And, you know, so I was like really starting out on my own. I started in Alabama, over in West Alabama, and there really wasn't anybody there doing it.
So that's where you're from originally?
That's where I'm from originally.
Alabama?
You know, and there was like a group of falconers in Alabama on the other side of Alabama. I think they mostly associated with the Georgia falconers as well.
Gotcha. It's kind of like us with a lot of the Kentucky guys, because where we're at in southern Indiana, I mean, we're literally 10-15 minutes from Kentucky across the river.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of the same deal.
Yeah, and I was just over there in no man's land. And, I mean, the first 10 years of my falconry, I mean, I'd only seen one other falconer hunt.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was like year 3. I thought at the time, like, well, you do red tails on squirrels until you become a general, and then you can have a Harris hawk, and that's what everybody gets. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do that, I need to see like how these things hunt and fly and whatever. So, of course, I found the Coulsons.
Yeah.
And I went to their place and went hunting with them.
They're so cool.
And man, they're awesome, man.
Yeah.
They're so cool. And of course, I was blown away by what they were doing. I mean, I'd never seen anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I got 2 Harris hawks, and I did, man, for like that next season. I busted my tail flushing rabbits for these things, man. And it's just really hard where I live to really, you know, have a lot of.
It's a lot of work,
man. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
so
work.
much work, you know. And I was doing it any way I could. I started on foot, then I went to horseback, and then I went to just riding on a Polaris Ranger with the birds on a T-perch on the top of it. And I'm just like, I'm just plowing through these fields, man.
So you're driving through there like Mad Max style.
Oh, yeah.
With like...
yeah. I'm like, this is so much better than like walking through this stuff, man. I just drive through it. So, yeah. But,
you can only imagine. So I'm sorry. I can't get past this visual right now where you're just plowing through this briar, this brush and stuff on a
Oh, yeah, man. With T perches sticking off the top of it, and the hawks are, and I'm just driving along, like, there we go, and they go out and wing over, and it turned into a thing where, like, my buddies are riding with me, and they're plowing through these fields.
But, I guess it's better than, well, it sounds more entertaining anyway than just having to be that poor soul that doesn't know what he's getting into and shows up in tennis shoes and jeans and no stick and stuff, and you're like, all right, bud. So you want to learn how to do this, or you want to check it out? Well, you see all that briar over there? Yeah, I know you're in jeans and a t-shirt, but just go ahead and just wade through that for me. This is your crash course. That sounds the 4-wheeler version sounds more entertaining.
Yeah,
it sounds a little bit easier on that.
I adapt it, man. It's like I'm gonna find the easiest way to do this. I told you, man, I'm pretty lazy. But yeah, that was my only season without a red tail. And then, I kept those Harris Hawks, and I kind of like, I was like, well, I'm just going to see how I do on squirrels, and I flew on squirrels a little bit.
What was it? Was it a male and a female, or was it two males?
It was 2 males.
2 males?
Yeah, it was 2 males. Yeah, man. So, yeah, I flew those 2 males. I had fun with them, man. I still went out and hawked rabbits since I found the easy way to do it, like
how big were they, out of curiosity?
Those males were both like mid 600s.
Okay.
Yeah, they both flew around 650 or so.
So roughly around like low 20 ounces then.
Something like that. Yeah, I guess. If you say so.
It's so funny. I always like.
Yeah, if you say so.
I've really tried over the years to kind of record my weights in both, just so I can kind of in my mind. It's easy to remember that like an ounce is like 27 or 28 grams or whatever.
Right.
But like, sometimes you can see roughly like a gram range and know that, okay, that's roughly about whatever. And just a side note, but it's funny. Still I'm the same way. Sometimes I just have to break the calculator out and
like falconry bilingual.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Sometimes and it's the same way with guys with ounces too. You're like, it's like, well, my bird's 750 grams, and they're just like cricket.
Yeah.
Cricket. Yeah. It's like, so what is that in real numbers being ounces, the same kind of thing, whatever. So
it's funny. It's like a little regional, it's like little pockets too.
Yeah.
It just like depends on like what the local club or whatever it is doing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and obviously a large part of it too is, that whole sponsor to apprentice relationship too. Obviously, if your sponsor only weighs in ounces, well, or grams, and that's how you're going to compute it in your head, so.
Yep.
But yeah, so 2 male Harrises, and had a lot of fun with those on 4-wheelers, and so then what came after that? Then?
Oh man, right back to red tails on squirrels. Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it. I like being in the woods. I like hunting in the woods. It's way easier to walk. It is,
Yeah, I can understand that. Unless it's like, like Wyoming woods where it's just like deadfall constantly from all the cut down trees and everything. But it's like,
I've gotten super picky now. Like I don't go where it's like they select cut anything. It's like, oh, those hills are too steep, and I find like nice flat ground, But yeah, I don't know. I like the squirrel hunt, man. It's so dimensional. Like all the flights it's such a variety of flights. You can chase the same squirrel for an hour. It's just a chess game. And sometimes it gets kind of boring if they're just in those little standoffs where they kind of both seem to be just taking a break.
Right. Right. And he's not moving, the red tail's not moving. Right. Just kind of, they're having that like that classic, Western standoff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like who's going to draw first kind of thing.
So, you got to kind of try to find ways to move the action along. But yeah, I like it. The hunter involvement in squirrel hunting is a lot of fun. It's like one of the only kinds of falconry where, your job really just begins after the flush. Because everything else is about flushing game. Like you flush and then it's whatever happens.
Right.
But with a squirrel hunt, like, once the chase starts, now that's when you can become active and you can become a factor in the outcome. So yeah, it's kind of one of the things I enjoy about it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I've always been primarily a cottontail guy. Most of the guys that I hunt with, like when I was learning and everything. Not to say that I wouldn't ever want to try it. There's plenty of squirrels around where I'm at and stuff. Most of them, unfortunately, are. We have a lot of gray squirrels too, but predominantly, the ones that are most notable are fox squirrels, and the ones that can, I'm sure you've heard it all. It's like, how do you keep those squirrels from biting your red tail's feet off?
You don't.
Yeah. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, stuff happens, but really, really bad bites are pretty rare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard that, and I'm sure you're probably one of those guys that you probably don't use the chaps and stuff, right?
I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't use chaps. I mean, I just haven't found them to be really that successful.
Yeah. Do you find that? I mean, some guys swear that they hinder more than they help.
I don't know if they do or not, man. I mean, it only goes to. I mean, it's only common sense to think like, well, the more stuff you have on their foot, it's bound to stop a bite eventually. So I'm sure they do stop some bites. How many they hinder and cause, I'm not real sure. The biggest thing the problem I've had with chaps is that everybody flies them with jesses in. Because the chaps are like removable type, and you have to have the jess in to hold the chap on. Okay. Well, the jess is what really hinders a bird.
Yeah, well, especially when they're landing in branches and trees and stuff. I can totally.
And footing the squirrel. I mean, like they reposition on the squirrel, 4 or 5 times usually.
Right.
So like if they grab the squirrel by the tail end, and then step on the jess of the foot that's trying to move to the head.
Right.
Well, now it can't grab the head.
Right. Okay.
And the squirrel turns and bites, and that's where your bites come from. And so I think the chaps, that's what causes a lot of the bites.
That makes total sense.
So yeah, I mean, I just haven't seen like a huge, really any notable decrease in bites when flying chaps, and I've flown them. I've used them quite a bit, and it just doesn't seem to help.
Right.
So,
are you more of a proponent then of the like the removable jesses, like either the bullet types or just the braided, or what?
Yeah,
or do you just...
I have braided, and I just pull my jesses before I fly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say you couldn't do the same with Almiris or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I found that the braided ones are a lot more easier to pull out and get back in one-handed and stuff. And I've not used the bullet ones.
That's the thing. If I'm flying with no jesses, I mean the braided ones are so easy just to put in and out, and and to get the jess in your bird quick if you need to.
Well, at least and get that one in at least or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. This thing with like the chaps too. They seem to be out of position a lot. I take a lot of pictures. So like
to get your bird back and it's spun around.
And when they're reaching for squirrels and when these bites happen, their legs are extended and the chap is usually riding up their leg and their whole foot's exposed anyway. And and of course people will say like, oh, look how chewed up my chap is, but a lot of that's just because
wear and tear and stuff.
Well, it's just so much, it's sticking out there where the squirrel may not be been able to reach the bird's leg or foot, but it could reach that chap. So I bit on that, but it doesn't mean it would have bit the bird.
Right.
But they are going to stop. I mean, it's a numbers game. I mean, they're going to stop a bite every now and then.
Well, right. But I mean, it's just, I totally understand what you're saying. It's like, but compared to the possible analytical statistics involved of, how many times did it mess with the bird or just not do anything at all? And I mean, I'm a big fan of, using other types of telemetry like GPS and stuff or whatever. But overall, I like to have the least amount of equipment on the bird whenever it's flying as I can also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, I can totally see where that would be more of a hindrance.
Yeah. I mean, you're dealing with it's another thing that's unique to squirrels. I mean, it's where the footwork really has consequences. Mm-hmm. I mean, if your bird steps on its jess on a rabbit, and the rabbit gets away, no big deal.
Right.
No harm.
Rabbit's not going to turn around and bite your bird's toe off.
Right. Yeah. But when you're hawking squirrels, I mean, the footwork is everything, so there's real consequences to it. Mm-hmm. So it's more than just the squirrel getting away. And that's what people are always like, oh, the bird will come down with a bite, loses a squirrel, and they're like, but it bit them and the bird turned it loose. It's like, well, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
It got bit because the bird didn't have enough control to hold on to it.
Yeah.
I've never seen a red tail just turn something. They don't just turn things loose.
No. I mean, I've come up on like, not just red tail, but pretty much any bird. I mean, I've flown so far. I mean, there's been so many times where I've come up and, I mean, the prime example, I mean, like, the little male Harris that I flew earlier this year that I was flying for a buddy of mine, the first cottontail that he caught, he launched out of the tree or whatever. The rabbit knew just where to run. He was running straight for the fence, right?
Yeah, like they do.
Yeah, exactly. And so that rabbit went right under the fence. The bird caught up to him right as he went underneath the fence, but the bird reached under the fence and was able to grab the rabbit by the back leg. Didn't have the talons sunk in or anything, but was gripping, just holding the rabbit by its back leg and would not let go. And so I was able to make it up there and reach under the fence and secure the rabbit, pull it back under and everything before. But, it doesn't matter if it's a squirrel in a hole or rabbit under a fence or whatever. If they get a foot on it, if it's within their power, they're not going to let go.
Yeah, no.
They want to eat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's not a game to them. Like it's an entertainment to us, but they're hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's just we're just those fortunate bystanders to get to check it out.
Isn't it funny how a bird always catches up to a rabbit or a squirrel right at the fence?
Yeah,
it's like some weird
it really
force
is.
in the universe.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention it now.
It's always through a fence.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's. Unfortunately, most of those don't end up in that happy ending situation where most of the time it's the rabbit or the squirrel, whatever, makes it in the hole or under the fence just as the bird gets there and just enough time to be late.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Or slam into said tree or fence or whatever, and then you're just like, oh well, okay.
Right.
All right, well, let's get another one up.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving on.
Who's
So,
next?
but I know you have dogs and everything. When did you decide to start incorporating dogs into your hunts? And what breeds did you use, and have you stuck with, and all that?
Yeah, I'm fairly new to the dog situation. My buddies have been hunting with dogs. When I moved to Tennessee, that's when I first started really hunting with other falconers. Mm-hmm. And they had dogs, and they were always on my case to get a dog, and because we were flying my bird never flew around dogs, and they didn't want to have to put their dogs up,
right?
So they wanted me to have birds that flew with dogs,
right?
So yeah, it was a few years ago, I guess about 4 years ago now. I started flying with a dog. I use the Decker Terrier. Good little dog for what I do, I like their size. They're easy to transport and get around. And they work really close, and they've a great recall, and I don't have to worry about keeping up with it too much.
Yeah. How are they in the house and at home?
They're good. They like to chew. So, yeah, they're pretty. I say the first 2 years, they're kind of a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need something to do, or they need to be outside.
Training sessions regularly and things like that. And how are they shed? Are they big shedders? Or are they? I know they have pretty short coats.
Yeah, they have short hair. I don't really notice it. They do shed for sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really bother me.
Gotcha.
It's short hair. But yeah, they're not like lap dogs. Man, they kind of want to be close to you, but they don't really want to be on you.
Not like my Vigilas that they no matter what 24/7 they got to be. They really want to be within at least a couple feet of you, if not on you half the time. Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah, these dogs kind of act like they're kind of like too cool to hang out with you.
Right. Yeah. And then it's just like you're more there for them instead of them being there for you.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, since you started incorporating one, though, has that really drastically improved your falconry experience with the squirrel hawking and everything? Or
absolutely, man. Yeah, I enjoy my time out in the woods so much more now. Watching the bird and the dog work.
Would you be able to go back to hunting without one?
Oh, it'd be tough. Yeah, it'd be tough, man. I think I'm sold on the dog thing now.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm hooked on that. Now it's like a lot of the times, a lot of days, like the weather's a little rough or something. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm not going to go today. And, I look over at my dog, and I'm like, dog needs to go, man. You need to run this dog.
It's totally not for me. It's for the dog.
Yeah. So, it's kind of some motivation sometimes to get out there when you're not quite feeling like it. But, and it's increased my, my take. They've been a nice asset, for keeping pressure on a squirrel when I can't.
Right.
When I'm laying on the ground and bleeding from tripping over a log or
that stump
whatever
that you didn't see or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So, how many does a dog catch?
My current dog hasn't caught a ton. She's caught maybe like 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Now, the dog before her, it was like if it hit the ground, man, the dog was pretty much on it.
Yeah.
Which I like this dog better because of that. A lot of what she does, I think, is she doesn't seem as she seems more careful about how she grabs squirrels because she's been chewed up a few times, so she's a little more careful with them on the ground, and it gives the hawk a little more time to get them. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Yeah,
I don't want the dog to catch everything,
right?
Well, I mean, it's like whatever. Like, I don't care if it does, but like, I like the fact that she like hesitates a little bit or backs off a little bit and lets the hawk do it.
I was going to say, well, I mean, has the hawk ever taught the...
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the hawk's taught the dog a few lessons too. Like, you're catching that, but it's still not yours. It's mine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the problem. The dog does catch it, and the hawk comes and tries to take it out of her mouth.
Right.
So I think this dog has keyed in on that a little better than the last dog.
It's like, so I still might get just a little taste of that squirrel if I just back off and let the bird have it real quick, and Dad will go ahead and just give me a little piece.
That's
afterwards.
Exactly right. Yeah. I'll cut a little piece off of it, throw it to the dog after the kill. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. No, I really want to try and make it down. I know you guys have that annual squirrel meet and stuff each year and everything.
That's
and,
right.
And I always talk to Scott, about, he always tries to get me down to come and hang out and stuff. And every year it seems like there's always been something going on that weekend, but I'd love to make it down for at least one of those days.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It would be cool to do this again, kind of in that environment and stuff too, and just kind of rehash, kind of how the hunts have gone and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Different stories and stuff. But real quick, I mean, we're kind of almost out of time and everything. But you want to end on your favorite squirrel hunt story that you have in mind? And I know you probably have a lot, but what's one of your your favorite squirrel hunt stories?
Yeah, I do have a lot. Let me see. Well, I always enjoy the ones where like, I get hurt. It's the ones that most people enjoy the most.
All right.
But I will tell you, one is pretty cool with the had my bird out. It's like we had not taken a squirrel yet with this bird. I was hunting alone, and this one I know a lot of my buddies know about. But we were chasing a squirrel, and the bird's really engaged in the hunt, and I'm psyched up. And I just know he's going to catch this squirrel, and the squirrel runs over and jumps into a cedar tree, and so I'm over there, and I run around, I grab the cedar tree, and I'm shaking it and screaming and game calling and, waiting on the bird to come in. It's just like perfect setup. And this little shard of the cedar tree fell and went right down my throat. It was like a little splinter, and it went down in my throat and got hung in my throat.
I'm wanting to start coughing right now.
Oh man! So I'm choking on it at first, and I'm like, oh god, I'm choking on this thing, and then it kind of moves and gets embedded, and it's just causing me to nonstop gag.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So so now I'm laying on the ground. And I can hear bells off in the distance, and I don't know what's going on with the bird.
At that point, you're just like, I don't care if it gets it or not.
I don't care. And so I'm like, if I move my head just the wrong way, it chokes me. Mm-hmm. So I'm holding my head at a certain angle, and I'm tossing my lure over on the ground, just trying to get my bird back. And I get the bird back, and anyway, man, I end up having to go to the emergency room, and they have to do surgery to remove this piece of thing. It's like this whole ordeal.
Wow.
And trying to explain to them what happened in the hospital. It's like,
yeah, well,
the whole thing.
Having worked in healthcare for, almost 15, well, let's see here. I'm going on almost 13, 14 years now. I can tell you some interesting things that have come through the ER and stuff too. So I can only imagine, but that's crazy, man. Well, we'll have to do this again sometime soon, and I really appreciate you taking the time, today and dragging me out here to the old the skydiving airport and hanging out. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. No, we'll do this again soon though, and thanks for sharing and. Yeah, so it is. In case anybody hears this around this area and stuff, what's the name of your abatement company and how do they get a hold of you?
It's Raptor Abatement, And you can call me, 205-496-8130.
Sweet. All right, bud. Well, thanks again for the time, and yeah, we'll do this again soon, man.
Awesome, man.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right. Talk soon, buddy.
All right, bye.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed Jeff's stories and experiences that he shared with us this week, and he assures me that there's plenty more where that came from, so I'm sure we'll be having Jeff back on again in the near future. We both had a great time recording this podcast for you all this week, and thanks again to him, and of course the rest of the Falconers that agree to come on and share their stories and experiences with us and the rest of the falconry community. It's always refreshing to find new people to talk to and that are willing to share those with us all. So thanks again, and we really hope that you will continue to tune back in with us each week at falconrytold.com, and we will talk to you all soon. Appreciate it. Thanks.